Welcome to Long Lost Friends. I'm Elizabeth Eve King.
And I'm Andrea Goyan. Elizabeth and I used to do comedy together back when we were 19.
But we lost touch.
And years later, we found each other again and discovered
that I've become a painter, a performer, a writer, a Pilates teacher, an animal lover, and a biologist.
Wait, I'm a painter, performer, writer, Pilates teacher, animal lover, and, well, okay, I'm not a biologist, but we're long lost friends.
Lost friends.
And we are both speculative fiction writers.
And my work has appeared in Metastellar magazine.
Metastellar, for those of you who don't know, is an online magazine that publishes original science fiction, fantasy, and horror. And there's a link below, so you can check us out and subscribe if you want writing tips, new pieces to read, and more. So today we're super excited to have back with us again Aeryn Rudel. He's from Tacoma, Washington, or living in Tacoma area now. And he has a story in Metastellar called Second Teeth that was published in December of 2020. And he's also the author of the Acts of War novels by Privateer Press. And his short fiction has appeared in The Arcanist, On Spec, and Pseudopod, among many others. So you can look at his website and see more links. He's recently released a collection of flash fiction, let me reach, I put it down, with a Molotov cocktail called Night Walk and Other Dark Paths. And today we're really excited because we're going to talk to him about his blog and which is Rejectomancy. Is that how we say it?
Yep, Rejectomancy. Yeah,
That's
just like necromancy, but with rejection. Yeah.
Right, because for a long time it was Rejectomaniac. Anyway, so we want to get to that, but first we want to
show us your pen.
All right. Let me see. Here, she's within easy reach.
Oh, good.
And this is the one you have a picture of too, right? A painting.
True. Should I have?
Show us your painting.
Oh, okay, I'll show the painting. There's the paint. Whoops.
Oh,
it's a little weird with the green screen, but
I love that. And there's the real thing.
Here's the real thing. There's the beauty.
Oh.
So this is Fiona, aka Fifer, aka Princess Fluffbutt. Yeah, she is a Maine Coon, and she is big and getting bigger and very fluffy.
Wow, she's beautiful.
And is not crazy about me holding her right now.
Okay, so, well, don't force her.
All right, I'm gonna put her down, and now I've got Fifer fur all over me. So
so now that we've seen Fifer, let's talk about your blog.
Okay.
Rejectomancy.
Yes, Rejectomancy. So I started Rejectomancy in 2015. The idea behind it was to write about rejection, write about the trials and tribulations that every author goes through, but, approach it from a very sort of factual, here are examples of rejections. And I think my real goal was to normalize rejection, because there isn't an author alive that hasn't been rejected. If you submit work, you get rejected. That's just all there is to it. But it's tough and it's painful. And I can certainly remember, my first rejections and, how hard they were to deal with. So I thought, writing about it and again, normalizing it, I hoped that I could, maybe help some other folks, that, were kind of feeling a little rough about rejections, just by saying, hey, it happens to everybody. And, and also, and this is what Rejectomancy is about, here's why it happens. Here's what this rejection means, and here's what this rejection probably doesn't mean. So that was the goal anyways with it. And
well, so do you take like an actual rejection then, and then dissect it for?
Yeah, I do sometimes. I always remove the names of the publishers. I always remove the names of, the stories and everything. I mean, because this isn't about, taking publishers to task for sending rejections, because they have to send rejections. That's just part of it. It's more about, helping authors understand what a rejection might mean, and that there are different types of rejections, and what they mean. So yeah, I will, dissect a rejection, and they're always my own. They're always my rejections, which I have I've got a pretty good store of them. But yeah, it's been helpful for me to write the blog as well, because I don't like getting rejected either. So there's definitely a cathartic process going on with that. But I'm also heartened by the fact that I occasionally get emails from people who tell me how much my blog has helped them with a tough rejection, or made them feel like, oh, this is normal, this is supposed to happen, let me get my work back out there. So that's very rewarding.
Yeah, I mean, I have to tell you that I came across your blog. I was introduced to your blog before I was introduced to you, and it was so helpful, because it was also, you're someone who's done a lot of publishing as well, and to know that someone who gets published a lot still gets those crappy rejections. And by crappy, I just mean the frustration of it, and sometimes the ones that aren't particularly nice, or that are cookie cutter, that you feel like someone didn't even see you, so it's really nice to know that you're not alone.
Right.
Really
I
helpful.
remember Ray Bradbury was my mentor, and
oh, wow.
even he was Ray Bradbury, and he was getting rejected.
Right.
Which you would think, that this doesn't happen anymore, but it always happens to everyone. So, and then there's also the rejection of, wow, I got this story rejected maybe how many times, 5, 10 times, and then suddenly it's picked up by a really top magazine, much better than the ones who rejected me. So where do you say, that's a really hard thing to figure out, of when do you say, wow, this needs work, it got rejected, or, oh, this just wasn't right for them, or they're idiots. All of which you can say.
Right. No, I think that's a really good question, and I think you've addressed this a little bit before, Aeryn.
Yeah, I definitely covered it on my blog.
Yeah, when to go back into something. When do you think?
Yeah, and it's tough to say. I mean, I just sold a story that had been rejected. Pardon me, had been rejected 16 times, right? And I didn't revise it that much. And then I've gotten a rejection on a story that I thought first rejection, and I went back and revised it. So yeah, it's hard to tell. It's kind of a gut feeling, and it's something I think you almost develop a sixth sense. The more you do this, the more rejections you get. And I guess that's the definition of rejectomancy is trying to divine hidden meaning out of rejections. And I think it's possible to some extent when you start seeing patterns in rejections on your work. So for instance, if I'm getting multiple rejections where the editor is citing the same issue, like it starts too slowly, or, we don't get to the conflict quick enough, or whatever, if I start seeing that multiple times, then I'll go back and revise it. But, if I'm getting, higher tier form rejections, or just regular form rejections, or close but no cigar rejections without much feedback, I'll keep plugging. I'll keep sending that story out, because my theory is getting a story published it's like lining up tumblers in a lock, right? You've got to have the right story at the right market, right editor, and at the right time. And if you line all those up, you sell a story. If one is off, you probably get rejected. So a lot of rejections come down to it's just not the right fit for that publication, or they just published a vampire baseball story, so they don't want another one. So there's so many things that go on behind the scenes with the rejection that an author doesn't see, but we're sort of conditioned to think a rejection means the story is bad, I'm a bad writer, when 99.9% of the time it's just not the right fit and you need to send it somewhere else.
I do find, for myself anyway, and other writers that I'm close enough to speak about it with, that the more I get my work out, the more I get rejected, the less painful it is.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, you gotta have a win. You gotta have a win once in a while to keep you feeling like you should continue. But it really is like, well, okay, it wasn't the right place. It's off again. We say rinse and repeat. Just throw it back out there. Keep throwing it
Right.
out there.
And then you
Yeah,
get
I'm
your
coming up on-
rejections where they say, well, we don't, this isn't quite right, but we want to see more of your work. So that's also like, you start getting more of those probably the more you send out. I mean, it is, a lot of it is a numbers game. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're
It is.
an okay writer, right, you're gonna get rejected, the story of, I mean, maybe the same story, how many times, I've always wondered like how many places would accept the same story if you were allowed to do that, just as a curiosity thing almost,
Right.
because I know there've been a couple of stories, I couldn't get them published, I just put them aside for a while, and then like this year I started sending them out and they were accepted like right away, and I thought,
Right. Yeah.
why?
There is some luck involved. I mean, I think you can't get away from that, and it's that, again, putting the story in front of the right person at the right time, right? And that's really important. But the rejections, if you can sort of see a progression with certain markets. Like I can think of markets where I started out and I was, I would just get the standard form rejection, and then after a while, I started getting the higher tier form rejection, right? And then I started getting personal rejections, and then I finally sold them a story. So a part of Rejectomancy is, you really can see progression in your work from rejection. So yeah.
And some, I guess, tips about not taking it personally.
No, and it never is personal. I mean, I'm sure there are editors out there who, send nasty rejections. I've never received one, and I'm coming up on 500 rejections at this point. I'm sure it happens, but yeah, I would say 99.99% of rejections are, they're not personal. They're just not the right fit, not to our taste, and it's, send it out again.
Now, do you see more magazines or publications asking people to send things if they're not really interested in having more from the person? Or do you think that's usually a slightly higher tier for people if they say, hey, but keep us in mind, send us?
Yeah, this is one of those really popular sort of points about Rejectomancy is the higher tier form letter as opposed to the standard form rejection, right? I think some markets definitely have them. Some of the bigger speculative markets definitely have a standard form rejection, and then they have a higher tier form rejection. And the higher tier form rejection will often include send us more work, where the standard one won't. So in those cases, if an editor says send them more work, they mean it. There are a few publishers whose boilerplate rejection, no matter what, says send us more work, but I find those aren't as common.
Yeah, and I guess, they have nothing to lose except for big piles of things to read because they never know when they're going to find a gem they love.
Right.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. I think we were talking about putting something, we'll have a link to your blog for sure below, but we were talking about putting something up to, I think, page or something to it, the show.
So we're gonna look at that now, maybe?
Yeah, let's put that up to see.
There's a link to my blog. It's pretty easy to find, just rejectomancy.com. But yeah,
I think,
the link.
Yeah, and this, I think almost every writer, writers I write with, some people get really down about it, and it's learning how to just get it off, wash it off your back. It's helpful for anybody who's in the profession, like actors, writers, almost any creative profession, where really rejection is you get a lot more rejections than acceptances, no matter how big you are, or
absolutely.
And so you just have to not care about them basically, or not let them hurt you, I guess.
Not let them define you. They can't define you. You have to, I feel like you've got to keep trying to work on your craft to create the best stories that you want to tell, and then hope that someone wants to let you tell them in their magazine.
Yeah. We're all human, right? So, you do develop a thicker skin towards rejections, but yeah, I mean, they can get you down. A couple days ago, I got 5 rejections on the same day, which was a personal record for me. And yeah, I'll admit that stung a little. It's it's like, can you space them out a little bit, folks? Just a little bit, but I know that's not personal, and I know those editors didn't conspire together to be like, oh, let's send them all the rejections at once. At least I hope so. But yeah, I mean, we're all human, and it's okay for it to get you down occasionally, But that's when I turn to my other writer friends and commiserate and and share those experiences, and that really helps. That's kind of what I'm trying to do with Rejectomancy, is share that experience, is commiserate with other authors in a in a broader sense.
Yeah, I think it does a great job of that. That's why we wanted to talk about it, because I think it is so helpful. So helpful. And just before we, finish up with that, are there any good sites that you like to recommend for people? I'm like, Duotrope's great. Do you use Duotrope?
I do use Duotrope, but the Submission Grinder is another great one, and they're linked to Diabolical Plots, which is a great speculative fiction magazine. And Submission Grinder is free. They it's a great database if you're looking for markets. Duotrope is another one, and Duotrope does have a small fee, but it basically does the same thing. But yeah, those two I think are kind of indispensable, if you're going to be submitting your work, because there's so many markets out there, and new ones pop up all the time. So they're a fantastic resource to have. I use both, actually. So
yeah, I do too. But one of the things I really like, and I'm not as facile with Submission Grinder, it's still newer to me, but with Duotrope, I like that when I click onto a specific publication, I can see if I have already sent the story to them. The same story.
Yeah.
So there have been a couple of times I've caught myself from sending the same story twice.
Yes, I've been like right about to hit something, like, oh my God.
Oh,
yeah.
So
I've actually done it once. And I immediately fired off an email to the editor explaining my mistake, and he was very kind and understood. But mistakes happen, and that's in the submission process, right?
Another site to check out is Raylan.com.
That is a good one. Yeah.
.com. They have a lot of good markets and anthologies. I mean, it won't keep track of your submissions for you, but it's certainly worth checking, for markets, I think.
That's
cool. I need to check them more, definitely.
That's cool.
Not always, but every now and then I find something I haven't found anywhere else.
Oh, right.
And then it's like, oh wow. And sometimes, especially if it's that one anthology that is just perfect for your story, of course. Right. That's also harder to get rejected on. Like when you have something where there's a lot of stuff I just send out and I don't expect anything from it. And then there's a few where I think, oh yeah, this is really right for this. And those are rejections that hurt more too. And so you just have to realize, well, obviously I was wrong. It's not right for this.
Or they have something like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
well, thank you so much.
Wow.
Your
having
blog
me.
Is that's really great resource, because I think writers, there are resources where you can publish your writing or even learn about writing tips, but there's not a lot to help writers with dealing with rejection, which is so part of this business.
Yeah, so much.
So thank you so much. So we like to end each section with the best thing we learned this week. So for me, the best thing I learned this week, well, it's maybe a two-parter. There's a lot of issues with coral reefs around the world and ocean climates and coral bleaching. And it's a real big problem. And there's a little island called Bonaire, part of the ABCs, Aruba, Curacao, Bonaire, which is in, what is that called? The Netherlands. Supposedly, it's right by Venezuela, though. It's a little island off the coast. They have these amazing reefs right around the island. You can just go diving right off the shore, like 20 different places. And they started a coral project where they're growing different kinds of coral and putting it on trees. And in the number of years they've been doing it, they've become so successful because I just used to start with the elk's horn coral and staghorn coral, and now they branched it into the brain corals, the boulder corals, which no one else has been able to actually get to grow. And so they had, and one of their artificial reefs actually produced eggs and sperm and new corals, which is the first time this has ever happened. So I'm really excited, and I am going in December to Bonaire, and I'm going to be working on their reef project for 3 months.
Wow,
So
that's so cool.
That is cool.
That's really cool.
yeah, so I'm excited about that, and you know, it's really nice to have something you can put your hopes into too, like live, little coral, live.
Yeah, absolutely. God, that's cool. I just wanted to share this video. I can't share the video, but I can tell you about it, and people can look it up if they want. There was this really cool video. This Australian farmer has been, I guess, sort of playing with his sheep. Don't take it the wrong way. So for his aunt passed away, and he could not go to her funeral because of COVID. So he set out in a field this huge grain heart made out, out of grain. And then he released all of his hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of sheep. And as they come, they start at the tip of the heart, and they start eating, and they go up and they fill in, and there's like this, like, I don't know how many deep, it's several sheep in a row, and they make this huge heart shape.
Oh,
So cool. It's really beautiful.
that is really neat. I'd like to have that done for me with cats, but you'd have to put little pieces of tuna all over. It's like this tuna heart. Yuck.
So what did I learn? Oh, I got it. All right. So I learned that there is a breed of cat. I believe it's called a werewolf. I think that's the actual breed, and they look like wolves. They look like they have their muzzles are darker and with shorter fur, and then they have longer fur in the back, and they kind of look like werewolves, and they have kind of longer claws and everything, and they're just the strangest looking cats. And I don't need another cat, but I'm like, find myself, looking for breeders in the area and that kind of thing. So yeah, that's the most profound thing that I've learned this week, that there is yet another breed of cat that I want to have. So
It kind of fits. You should probably have a werewolf cat.
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that would work for me. Yeah.
Yeah, it would work for you.
That's great. I can't wait to look up werewolf cats.
Well, we'll have to have you come back and show your werewolf cat when you get it.
Right.
Definitely.
Right.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you so much for coming and talking to us about this. It's been a pleasure. It's been
Thank you
Yes.
so much for having me again.
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you, Maria and Alex Korolov, for editing and producing and helping us put all this on. We couldn't do it without you.
We could not. And we want to ask our viewers to please like the video and leave comments below. We'd love to hear what you're thinking. And be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification button so you don't miss any episodes. And if you want to support our publication and help us publish more original fiction and content, please support us by going and visiting and supporting us on our Patreon page. So thank you so much. Thanks. We'll see you next time.
Bye.